Hello and welcome to Connect and Collaborate. I'm Alex Hopkins, your on-air producer, and I have in studio with me Chris Brown, one of my favorite people that we've had in here. He is the Director of Policy and Research at Common Sense Policy Roundtable, better known as CSPR. And you've been in my studio quite a bit over 2018. We've talked about education, we talked about para reform, talked about Proposition 112, and the last time you were here, we talked the 2018 ballot guide, which was super helpful for me in my voting.
Oh, good.
Yes,
oh, good.
Yeah, I personally used it. I took that home.
Good. We should have brought some extra copies.
We should have, yes, because I did steal the one copy that I got. But I shared it with several people, so it got some good usage. But we're talking here today because one of the things that we haven't done with you is a deep dive on exactly what Common Sense Policy Roundtable is and what you do and all of the work that goes into the ballot guide, for example, or the work that you do behind Proposition 112 and all of these studies that you get and gather.
Right.
One of the things that happened that was interesting to me, so after we did our show on Proposition 112, we got an angry complaint. And we don't normally get those here.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was about your study.
It follows me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that happened to you. Tell me about that.
Well, you've talked about some of the issues we've discussed on the show and the issues that we research, and I'll elaborate on what CSPR is and what we do. But fundamentally, we take on research efforts around some of the bigger issues that face Coloradans, and undoubtedly some of these are very contentious. You've talked about PARA, the state's Public Employees Retirement Association, which is responsible for retirement accounts for tens of thousands of Coloradans, but there's a significant budgetary threat. And we put studies around the numbers. Proposition 112, not that we need to remind your listeners what Proposition 112 was, but yeah, when you try to take a hard look at these issues, as much as we stick to the policy, we stick to the facts, we stick to the issues, we believe in transparency, which is why we love coming on your show, and I love talking about the issues and why we publish all the research. But unfortunately, people and I don't know if the person that called you even read the study, but they have opinions. They have very strong opinions, and they like to share those opinions. And it's, and my response is always, thanks for your interest. And, if you have any questions specifically about the research, I'd love to answer them and kind of direct you back to that. But it's hard to deflect when people are coming at you without really, soaking in the work that you're doing. But sorry to hear you guys had to deal with some of those calls.
Well, it was only shocking in the sense that, I just delivered a message. There was nothing.
Yeah.
I had no hand in the research. But it is interesting, and you bring up a really valid point here, that you direct them back to the study, because a lot of times, maybe you just read one portion of the study, and that really sticks out to you, and you have to tell someone your opinion on that portion of the study.
Sure.
Yeah, and so it's.
And to be frank, if we put everything out there. Unfortunately, my phone number is also out there, but we should probably take that down. No, I think so. We encourage the feedback. We want to hear people's opinions, and we go through a process of internally determining the methodology, going through review processes. So we fundamentally believe in transparency, and we're open to feedback and criticism, and there's some feedback that actually maybe I considered to be appropriate, and that's a fair criticism. We took it a different direction. We think that's fair, but unfortunately, when people come at it without really digesting and coming up with and formulating a really strong argument, but they have a very strong opinion, but that opinion fails to sort of meet the test of fact, then it's the conversation really can't proceed from there. But we'll take the call, and thank you again for your time, and thanks for reading it and your interest. But
Yeah, but sometimes you
That's
just
it.
run into that. Yeah, no, and I love that you, obviously, you do want the discussion. You are happy to get some feedback on your studies out there. It's a very open door.
Absolutely.
Transparency is key for your industry. It's impertinent, really.
Yeah, I mean, the brand of our work can't persist unless people believe it, and unless people believe the work that we're doing. And in this field of research, I think it's when we talk about the transparency is what is the credibility. Undoubtedly is
Yeah.
you can't fake that.
Exactly. So let's talk about your process here.
Sure.
I guess I should ask, do you partner with, because you've mentioned your resources as far as your research goes. Are you partnered with those people, or do you just partner for one study? How does that work?
Sure.
How does CSPR get their findings?
Yeah, excuse me. So CSPR was founded about 8 years ago by business leaders, civic leaders that some of them still remain on our board of directors. And the real value of CSPR is its people. And its people and their mission, their commitment to the Colorado economy, to rigorous research, to understanding the facts. They represent a range of interests and backgrounds, and really we meet monthly, and really come with just an interest in getting things right, because the future of the state's economy, the future of our own economic well-being sort of depends on these decisions. And we have convened a partnership with 4 other Colorado organizations that we've talked about before. So CSPR, as a free enterprise think tank, I work directly for CSPR and lead the research efforts, but we partner with Colorado Concern, Denver South Economic Development Partnership, Colorado Association of Realtors, and the Colorado Bankers Association, who again represent a range of business interests and backgrounds and perspectives, but have a singular interest in the overall well-being and health of the Colorado economy. So we don't stand for the preserving the interests of any single company or industry, but really understanding how policy improves the well-being of the citizens of Colorado by fostering a successful business environment, a business environment that enables the entrepreneur, enables the individual to sort of be our best self. And so we have a shared interest, and they prioritize these issues. We meet monthly. We talk about some of the largest issues that the state's facing from a public policy standpoint, and they kind of just say, "Chris, good luck." And we really kind of dig into the issue, try to understand it from every perspective, but try to give an audience, the public, business leaders, elected officials, a real clear perspective on the economic ramifications from a long-term perspective of what these issues mean. And so we talked about education, para, Proposition 112, Amendment 73. So, as we kind of look forward, we want to continue the efforts on some of these issues, but we can touch on that. But it's really amazing the support, the diversity of people who are really engaged in the work that we do, that bring an interesting perspective, but are also just interested in the issue and then very hands-off when it comes to coming up with the research, but then are very helpful in disseminating it, communicating it, dissecting it, and so it's just a great coalition that our executive director Chris Strom has put together, and couldn't be happier. So it's been a fun experience, and something continue to look forward to, even with the phone calls that you get from some upset people. So but yeah. That's how you had to deal with those.
No, and I quite honestly, it was just we laughed about it. It's a little harsh to say, but we had to take a minute to go about it, and we were like, oh my gosh, that's probably a little bit of his day. That's probably something that's fairly common. Yeah.
Could be. Yeah, it could be. I mean, I think there's a lot of,
I
whoever
meant
is
your
it?
day.
Oh, my day.
Yes.
My day.
Getting those calls. Yeah,
No. It depends on the issue, but as far as time goes, I think, if people that are spending time to reach out and, they spend time digging into the issue, and again, I think they come up with valid questions and valid things that I'm happy to discuss, right?
Yeah.
And so spend your time digging through and encourage the dialogue and encourage the feedback. So
Of course. Well, and you mentioned business leaders and elected officials kind of be are kind of your consumers of content.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a broad audience, and it's just people that are interested in these issues, and
Yeah.
and that spans, whether elected officials are making the decision, as it was with para, and likely coming up here in education reform, and numerous other issues, obviously, or it's through the ballot process, and it's the citizens of Colorado directly voting on legislation which is incredibly impactful and need to be informed. There's the Legislative Council does a great job summarizing the issues and coming up with some analysis on the ramifications of these policy changes, but we think that there's always more. And so we wanted to add to that and have our own ability to communicate what Leg Council is saying, but also additional analysis that they are not necessarily mandated to do. So and it's all just about informing people on these issues. People care. People care about these issues. They care about energy. They care about the environment. They care about the business community. They care about their future prospects. And so, the more information you have, we think is a good thing. And that's really our mission.
Right, and there's nothing wrong with gleaning as much information as you can at any given time.
Right.
So I like that you cater to just a Coloradan.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're a Colorado-based free enterprise think tank. So we care about public policy issues that impact the well-being of Colorado citizens, economic well-being of Colorado citizens.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot in the few shows that we've had together. I get to do the research, and I check out CSPR every once in a while for new things that are coming up. But let's talk.
I'll quiz you. Should I quiz you?
No, not on air.
Okay.
I would need my cheat sheet. But 2019, we had the ballot, or we had our election go through.
Yeah.
We've got all new elected officials in place. So let's talk about what 2019 has to offer as far as where CSPR is going with their issues that they're going to look at. I know we mentioned off air, you've got a budget release coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
So tell me about that.
Let's start there.
Yeah.
So we've released this in the past, but it's just a couple charts, graphs that give an overview of the Colorado budget then and now over the last 2 decades. So we give a snapshot over the last 10 and 20 years how spending in terms of real dollars, so adjusting for inflation, how spending has changed in terms of department agency allocations and sources of funding, and what's the image that I really like that kind of tells a big part of the story is the percent of the budget. So how has the share of spending changed by some certain departments? And there's various reasons why, and so we don't answer all those questions directly in this. We kind of spur some of that debate, we hope, but it gives a sense of, in the debate for certain issues, recognizing that this is a whole of government approach when you're talking about allocating resources and how priorities may have shifted or changed and are indicated in how the percentage of spending has shifted. And so it just gives an interesting perspective to give you a high-level overview of where spending is, where it's gone, how it's changed. Again, it fosters maybe more questions than it does give answers, but I think it's important for people to quickly digest the state spending and state budget as we come into another legislative session here.
Yeah. Well, and to steal from somebody who's been in my chair before, Ed C. Lover, he mentioned that this year it's going to be a Hunger Games for transportation and education. And I don't think he's wrong with that. I think those are going to be
What was
the two
last year?
big
Was
ones.
that not Hunger Games last year?
It's probably
Maybe a
Hunger
little
Games
more.
over the last 5 years, essentially. But because we voted down any relief on the transportation side, and again, on the education side, we didn't have very many ballot measures in education this year, but both shot down by
Right.
voters. We do not like to increase our taxes. That is one thing that is consistent with us.
Well, it's interesting. I should know the exact numbers, but I know that several of the local school funding measures did pass, and so
Yes.
I think
I am looking overall, but yes, you are
Yeah.
right. A lot of local ones.
the statewide one addressing some money in education did not pass, and another issue we studied. So I think for us, following up on the work that we've done in education on Amendment 73, but also leading up to a big study we did leading up to the gubernatorial primary last May, was emphasizing the value of improving education. It was, again, pointing out something that others have pointed out, which is this paradox in Colorado, where, as it stands, the state's graduation rate is number 46. That's 46th lowest high school K-12 graduation rate, but has the second highest demand for post-secondary education in the workforce. So that difference is staggering, and we show that if you could get every graduating class to meet the workforce demand when it comes to post-secondary education coming from every 12th grade graduating class, you would need to improve the number of students receiving some post-secondary education by almost 5,500 students every year that are sort of falling behind. And this has major implications for those students, for those individuals over their life, for the economy, for our continued necessity to import a lot of the talent and a lot of the higher educated workforce. So there's a lot of implications, and we want to follow up on that work to really try to understand how to move the needle when it comes to graduation. So education is a major emphasis, a major focus of ours that really needs to be outcome oriented, and really think about the students and improving the well-being of the students first, and sort of building a policy solution around that. So that's a big agenda item that we'll be working on to follow up on, whether we jump in the Hunger Games or not, we'll see.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to be, part of the debate, part of that issue, part of the discussion to see what to help people understand really what can make a difference.
Right, and you bring up some really, really good points I want to reiterate here. First of all, as a single woman without any students, why does this affect me? Because it affects the economy in Colorado, period. If you're not getting
Sure.
students the proper education that they need to contribute back to society with the education that they need, it's going to equal into a bad economy, right? So this impacts everyone, whether you have kids or not. A lack of education in Colorado is a big deal.
And I go back to, we talk about what CSPR is, its mission, what it was founded on, and its current leadership and the partnership that we've formed with these other groups. It really does come back to what does connect us. The economy is truly what does connect us, and these issues and these relationships, and if we have healthy sectors and healthy businesses, it does matter for commerce, it matters for the retail options, it matters for housing options. I mean, it matters. Yes, frankly, it does, and that's really what does connect us is our sort of is an underlying economy and the well-being of the economy. So, I think that's also why people do care. I mean, it may not impact them directly, but they do understand those indirect connections and linkages, and understand that this is the framework and the foundation for individual well-being and prosperity that provides dignity in work and dignity in our life. So it really is important if you want a thriving community.
Mm-hmm. And for the record, I do care. I have a niece and nephew here, and
I never question that.
Yes, of course. But no, that's amazing. So education is going to be your big one. You've got the budgetary. You were talking about right to survive.
Okay, yeah.
On our break. Tell me about this. I'm very curious about this one.
Yeah, so
It's
I'm just
tough.
starting to, we haven't released, anything on this. I'm just starting to, begin some of this research into this issue. But, and so I don't have all the details coming from the city and how the response and some of the response from police. But there is an effort to change the laws, ordinances within the city of Denver to improve or increase the increase the rights of those experiencing homelessness to remain in public spaces and not essentially face some of the requests to move or to leave if they're obstructing businesses, obstructing again open spaces and so it is an issue again which you might get some phone calls after this conversation. We'll see.
That's okay. I know where to direct them.
Well, we haven't released an issue. We really want to solve. Again, it's like, how do you solve this issue? And there is a lot. I think what we really want to highlight is the amount of resources and focus that really does exist within the city, within the nonprofit community, within private businesses, within charitable, within the city that are really trying to emphasize and address and help people. We don't see, surviving on the street as the solution. I think as long as we can agree broadly that is not the long-term solution, I think you have to work then, okay, how do we connect people to service? How do we get adequate services? So, because there are real unintended consequences of these types of measures which can obstruct open spaces and have health and public safety impacts. You go to parts of Los Angeles and San Francisco and you can kind of see what they're dealing with. So this is a challenging issue. No findings released just yet, but something we do want to ensure because it does matter for, again, the well-being of these communities and the city of Denver and the sort of continued success that it's had. So we want to take a hard look and encourage people to educate themselves on this issue and kind of get informed, because it'll be showing up in May on the ballot for the city of Denver.
So I know you mentioned that you are just foraying into this subject, this issue particularly.
Yeah.
Can you tell us anything you found so far? What's been the biggest call out for you that maybe you didn't know before you started researching it?
It might be a little too early to give some hard numbers. I think the biggest challenge thus far has just been getting a real clear picture of the scope of those services. They're disparate. There's such a web of institutions that are providing a lot of money, and it's not all really well consolidated. So we have a fairly clear picture of the size and the magnitude of those experiencing homelessness, but exactly how big and I think if we can get a handle on that, you kind of see both sides of the picture a little bit better. So I think that's been the biggest challenge. Yeah. That's really struck me, that there's not a clear picture there that people can really say, okay, I get what's currently happening and maybe identify current issues and what's lagging. But more to come.
Yes,
very preliminary
absolutely.
thoughts.
Yes, and again, yes, they are very preliminary, just to make sure our audience knows that.
Yes.
Chris, it is always a pleasure to have you in studio here. I'm looking
Great.
forward to talking with you again on education, this right to survive, the budget release in a couple of weeks. We'll definitely get some social media out there for
Great.
you with your visuals that you got from CSPR.
Great.
But thank you so much for joining me, and best of luck to you in 2019.
Awesome.
And I can't wait to get you back in studio and hear more and have a follow-up.
Yeah, same to you. Enjoy the holidays. Thank you very much, Alex.
Yes,
it's always
thank
a
you
pleasure.
so much. Have a great day. Be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube page while you're here. Check out Common Sense Policy Roundtable as well. And have a good day. Enjoy your holidays.